And gentlemen, you welcome to this edition of the primetime newscast on Equinoxe television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Babla Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, the administration restricts the circulation of motorbikes in the town of Bamenda, headquarters of the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. Henceforth, some parts of the Bamenda 1, 2 and 3 subdivisions are no-go zones for commercial and private motorbikes. The decision has been taken by the senior divisional officer of the Mezam division, the Bamenda city mayor, and confirmed and announced by the governor of the northwest region, Adolphe Lele Lafrique. The administrative authorities say this is a measure to fight against rising atrocities being committed within the context of the Anglophone crisis deepening for close to 4 years today. The Social Democratic Front will not take part in the upcoming regional elections. The national chairman of the party, John Funding, says organizing regional elections in the present context with the deepening crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of the country is a further expression of marginalization of Anglophones and is going to contribute to aggravate the situation. Details coming up next. Administrative authorities in the crisis-hit northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon have imposed restrictions on the circulation of commercial and private motorbikes in some parts of the town. According to a circular signed by the city mayor of Bamenda, some parts of the Bamenda 1, 2 and 3 subdivisions will henceforth be no-go zones for commercial and private motorbikes within the town of Bamenda, and this is part of the administrative measures to combat the rising crime wave within the context of the Anglophone crisis. Killings and destruction of properties going on in the town of Bamenda and the rest of Anglophone Cameroon within the context of the 4-year-long armed conflict, and the governor announced this decision in a statement today and indicated that it was taken after a consultation between the city mayor of Bamenda and the senior divisional officer of the Mezam division. Take a listen to the governor.
After the brutal assassination of a lady in the city of Bamenda, after the brutal murder of teachers, abduction and wounding of students that were going to write their exams, some terrorist groups masterminded from abroad and whose connection is already identified in the northwest region, in particular in Bamenda, have brutally assassinated a policeman on the 1st of September in Bamenda, creating a little bit of disorder in some part of the city, mainly at the level of Commercial Avenue. Or in those many terrorist acts, the instruments that were used, in most of the cases, is a motorbike. As a result of that, the SDO of Mezam and the city mayor of Bamenda have chaired a meeting this morning with the representative of the motorbike system in the headquarters of the Northwest region, and after that meeting they have came out with resolution to ban the circulation of motorbike in certain parts of the city of Bamenda. I would like to appeal to the citizens of Bamenda to support, like they have started doing it long ago, the decision taken by the city mayor and the SDO, implement it, and they are also expected, they have called to also give their full and loyal support to other measures that has been dictated by the head of state, both to the administration and to the security services, to bring back long-lasting peace in the Northwest region.
Northwest Governor Adolphe Lele-Lafrique speaking there. And now we're going to take you to some parts of the Northwest region where bad roads is the problem of bad roads is making life quite difficult for inhabitants, and some of them have taken upon themselves to rehabilitate even some major roads. For example, the National Road number 1, the section passing through the Donga Mantum division, notably Dendu locality, is now being rehabilitated by inhabitants and with the support of the council. And also in the Mbengui, some inhabitants, notably women, are now rehabilitating some of the bad roads in that part of the Northwest regions. Manjikan Gabriel has details.
Inhabitants of Mbod village in Kamer Central Subdivision and those of Mbie in the Ndu Subdivision join hands to make this stretch of road passable again. The road, which falls under the National Road number 11, has been neglected for several years now, making it inaccessible. The stretch of road, which is part of the ring road, falls under villages hit by the ongoing crisis in the southwest and northwest regions. The Ndu Nkambe stretch of road that has been cut off, now rehabilitated, falls under the initiative born by the mayor of Nkambe, who calls for unity.
Even if there are crises which are born out of differences, I want to say that there's much more that puts us together. Let us make the best out of what puts us together so that we can have time to sort out what keeps us apart in terms of the crisis. I want to say that security challenges, they are there, differences, they are there, many other problems are there, but then we must continue to move so that we can be able to sort out other problems.
It is for this reason that the inhabitants of the two subdivisions descended to the road to make it again passable with bulldozers fueled by councillors within the division, which goes against the law of the country, with many of its inhabitants on the run due to the crisis in the zone. The mayor of Ndu Council is calling on them to return home.
People have come back to their senses and life has come back, and that is why I will be calling our citizens from this municipality in particular to come back home and continue to do their work as they used to do, because they are living out of this municipality, and I know very well that many of them they are facing a lot of hardship, so they have to come back so that we build our municipality.
They are the only women left in Njito, Njiwo, in Bome village of Mbengui, Momo division. Most of the bridges linking the two villages have been broken. In the absence of the men who have fled away as a result of the crisis, the women have become carpenters.
They don't run, leave we suffer.
They have all run away and abandoned us. The bridge has fallen because we don't have any helper.
We want to go for ourselves. Now we will look and so say,
we decided to do the little we can to enable us move freely.
Run. Now we woman, no man picking, no man for help and no day. Now you will suffer for years, so suffer every day.
The bridges now used in these two villages are the handwork of these women who have left their places in the farm to become carpenters. We are begging that the government should help us because the men are all gone.
See what you wait to do for help, we say move, fix her.
The crisis is still very far to come to an end.
Women rehabilitating a dilapidated bridge in Njito in the northwest region of the Republic of Kamer in the absence of men. The men are absent because of the deepening Anglophone crisis. In a related story, we now take you to the far north region of the Republic of Cameroon, where a member of parliament of Minister Issa Chiruma Bakari's Cameroon National Salvation Front organized a protest yesterday, protesting against what he considers as the poor attitude of council authorities in that part of the country. Honorable Salman Amadou took to the street with some supporters protesting at the arrival of the interministerial committee, an interministerial committee headed by Minister Atanganji Paul. Immaculate Fogwe has more.
The population of the far north region of Cameroon are yet to recover from the devastating consequences of the heavy downpour that hit several localities on the 2nd of September 2020. Due to the floods, several houses were destroyed, roads impassable, and electrical equipment now unusable. Residents spent the whole night trying to drain away the floods from their homes, and in the morning, all household equipment like mattresses, chairs, mats, to name but these that were soaked, were carried outside. Whenever it rains, we have to carry our children and keep them in a safe area. Every year, we have to look for a motor pump in order to be able to evacuate the floods. 3 houses have been destroyed by the floods. Please, the government should help us.
Je vous en supplie de regarder comment canaliser ou bien.
The collapsed Pala Bridge, which was equally triggered by the heavy downpour, has now become a shadow of itself. It is for this reason that a delegation of 7 ministers was sent to the site to assess the damages caused by these floods.
Interministerial meeting which was sent on the field by the head of state to come and make an evaluation of the floods and the disasters created by the floods. We are in front of the Pala Bridge, which is completely damaged. You have the Minister of Public Works, who is the minister in charge of this sector. We were in the Mizao Bridge. We have the Minister of Urban Development. So all these ministers who are here, this is the first time we are having 7 ministers in a delegation in a region. Because the head of state wants to know exactly what can we do to bring appropriate solutions to the difficulties.
The Kakatari stretch of road, which was under construction but later abandoned 2 years ago, is now currently being fixed. The construction work carried out is meant to ease circulation for these 7 ministers who are in the town of Mara. An act strongly condemned by a member of parliament of the National Salvation Front Party, Salmana Amadou Ali. He immediately descended to the site, ordering that construction work be halted. I am the messenger of the population of the far north region. I came here to ask them to stop. We are tired of this drama they are acting. We are suffering in Mara. They are waiting for government officials to come here before they start filling the potholes. The last time the head of state came here, it was the same scenario. They want to show the world that there are good roads in Mara. We are tired. Some inhabitants of Mara say they are waiting to see experts on the field carrying out work and not a delegation of ministers.
Honorable Salmana Amadou Ali of the Cameroon National Salvation Front Party of Minister Issa Chiruma Bakari is strongly condemning what he considers as poor attitude of council authorities, who he says allow the population to suffer because of the problem of bad roads, the roads which are only rehabilitated according to him on the eve of the visit of government authorities, an act which he vehemently condemns. On to something else now. After the President of the Republic of Cameroon, Paul Biya, signed a decree setting the pace for the upcoming regional elections, the Social Democratic Front political party says it will not take part in that election. According to the national chairman of the Social Democratic Front, John Fundi, organizing elections in the present context with the deepening 4-year-long armed conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of the country is a further expression of marginalization of Anglophones in the country and will contribute to worsen the situation. Details in this report compiled by Innocent Aze.
Holding regional elections with the current chaotic atmosphere in Anglophone Cameroon, according to the Social Democratic Front Party, is a step in the wrong direction. In a press release signed by the national president of the SDF party, Nijon Frunzi, Cameroonians are made to understand that the Constitutional Council recognized that elections cannot be validated when they take place in an atmosphere of war, with all the polling stations of the different constituencies being grouped together in a single polling center. Also that the Constitutional Council recognized this as a serious violation of voters' rights and a clear move by the government to force election by marginalizing for another time the English speakers that saw 1% of them participating in the February 2020 legislative and municipal elections. To the SDF still, the regional election will further prevent the population from participating in the institutional life of Cameroon, and this is equal to planned marginalization of the population of the two English-speaking regions. In conclusion, the SDF takes its stand by declaring it will not participate in the regional elections amid the ongoing armed battle in the northwest and southwest regions, which it terms state-sponsored and government-activated, with attackers on both sides meting sufferings on the local populations. SDF believes the regional elections scheduled by the Yaoundé regime will further contribute to widening the already wide gap between Cameroonians, as well as to bring about collapse of the nation. Nijon Frunzi with his party are adamant genuine federalism is the only way to effectively transfer power to the people and to create an enabling environment that will help crucify the socio-political impasse. The Nijon Frunzi's party describes the decentralization process of the Biya regime as a failure and obsolete system being imposed on Cameroonians, which is an act of bad faith that only aggravates the already complicated situation.
And concerning the upcoming regional elections, the Samsawa chiefs have made a declaration in which they think that, or they say, all members of the regional council, as far as the littoral region is concerned, must be indigenous of the area. People should not come from elsewhere to take positions in the littoral regional councils. And this is in the same vein, some traditional rulers and indigenes of Bonasama in the Douala 4 subdivision took to the streets today protesting against what they consider as the violation of their rights and their cultures and tradition by the administration. According to them, the administration has imposed a third-class traditional ruler in the locality of Beseke, in the neighborhood of Beseke, which according to them is not right, is not correct, because the said individual is somebody from elsewhere, is not an indigene of the area. And the inhabitants marched in the streets of Bonaberi today protesting. Take a listen to one of them.
Message to the government to let them know that we are tired of this sort of behavior within Douala peoples in general. Sawa, we are tired here in this village called Bonasama. The 20th of August, the divisional officer appointed someone who lives there in a sort of a quarter here around the Bonasama called Beseke. Beseke is a territory in a territory of Bonasama. He appointed a chief there, 3rd degree, same like our own chief here. And they are also planning to cut up Bonasama in several spaces. Bonasama 1, Bonasama village, Bonasama so on, and so on. Many people knows here in this division that Bonasama is from the bridge, Rivavuri Bridge, till Mambanda. But people are doing like the one. For us, the population, we don't care about this. We don't care about this. There are something where they are preparing over there to do what they want. This problem of administrative chiefs and traditional one is occurring only in Douala. Why not the other part of the country? Can you go to Marwa, the Lamido, who is a Bamileke or something like that, or even a Douala man? Can you go to Bafusam? You meet a notable who comes from Konsamba. That's nonsense. You don't want it anymore. We are here to send a message.
And the Douala 4 subdivision is lagging behind as far as the execution of public investment budget or projects are concerned, and of course according to authorities, council and administrative authorities, the council has a lot to do. Very little has been done as far as this year is concerned, and they are attributing it to the COVID-19 pandemic, which they say has destabilized the activities of the council. And Douala 4 subdivision is one of the areas in the town of Douala with several problems of bad roads and social amenities that are lacking in several parts of the subdivision. And the council authorities were meeting in a session yesterday in which they were evaluating what has been done so far and strategizing on how to go forward and better implement the plans that they earmarked for the current year. Take a listen to the senior divisional officer of the Uri division and the mayor of Douala 4 subdivision in this extract.
Is trying to catch up with time, and we have come here to evaluate the past 6 months work. That's why they call me Paku. And we are seeing that he is trying to catch up despite the COVID-19 that come and disturb our program. But Douala 4 is on the train. They are moving along to catch up with time with all the activities. So our project, we have validated so many new projects that they will be going on. By December, we'll have to catch up with all the projects that, to realize everything that concerns 2020. The budget is very low. There are so many projects that cannot be realized because of the COVID-19. So we are late. So as the DO just give us an advice to the mayor that we should try and mobilize to catch up with the budget. So the budgets are very low. We have about 11% discount as compared to last year.
That was Frada Mary Ngwa, a councillor in the Douala 4 subdivision, speaking there. Now, out of the country, the president of Ivory Coast, Alassane Dramane Ouattara, meets French President French President Emmanuel Macron today in Paris, and both personalities were discussing issues concerning the political and, of course, the socio-economic life of the Ivorian president's country. And both authorities are meeting ahead of the presidential election of the 31st of October 2020, and should be recalled that Alassane Dramane Ouattara is a candidate in that election after the person chosen by the ruling political party died, and Alassane Dramane Ouattara decided to represent his party and, of course, to table his candidacy for the upcoming 31st October 2020 presidential election. And today he was in France meeting with Emmanuel Macron, president of France, and other Ivorians who are in France. Talking Point is up next.
The mayor
Thanks for staying with us in Talking Points. We are receiving a politician, the recently appointed Deputy Communication Secretary of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM political party. Elvis, you're welcome.
Thanks very much, Babila Jonathan. Greetings to the President-elect. And
congratulations on your appointment.
All right. No, thanks very much. We think that away from something we would have been celebrating, but unfortunately we will not be celebrating any of the achievements because we think that there is much ahead, and we think that the issue of the party putting in place no to the war in the Northwest and the Southwest, and yes to electoral reforms is what is preoccupying us now. But then we think that even those who are in prison, we have the Vice President Mamadou Muta, we have Mutaga Sivanos, who is also part of that new government, and the host of others, including all political leaders, including Ayuk, Siseko, and Co, the Nera 10. We think that it's high time we keep advocating for them to be set free and for peace talks to come back on the table for the crisis to come to an end.
Silvanus, which you mentioned, is now the special advisor, one of the special advisors of the national president, and he's still in detention, Mutaga Silvanus.
Yeah, still in detention, but his detention doesn't stop him, from being the position of the advisor, because before the issue came out, the president-elect, Professor Maurice Kamto, took into consideration so many things before placing him. And no, you see, so while in detention, but the main thing is that the position is reserved for him, and the mechanisms are put in place where he channels the necessary advice to the president-elect, which gets to him at the appropriate time. So it's a matter of who can offer what, and that's why you see he himself got that particular position. So it's a square peg in a square hole, just like all the other national executive members who have been appointed under the auspices of the president-elect, Professor Maurice Kamto.
Why has your party not succeeded till now to release those who are still in detention, Vice President Mamadou Muta and the rest?
Well, our move here is not just only why are we not succeeding to release Mamadou Muta, our Vice President, Mutaga Sivanos, and a host of other, about 12 of them. Now, the issue is the party is looking at it at a holistic manner. We think that we are fighting not only to release them, but to ensure that even political prisoners are set free. Those advocating for those who are advocating for the change in the Anglophone region also are supposed to be included, and they are in the fight for them to be set free. Now, you understand that in a Jacobin system where we find ourselves, we said that we will keep on pressing hard, because whether we like it or not, any crisis that comes ends with dialogue on the table, and we are cocksure that with the fight put in place with the legal team of the party and the powers that be, it is a matter of time. All the political prisoners will be set free, and for anything to go on, there must be dialogue on the table, whether the Yaoundé likes it or not.
We'll talk a little more about that fight in a short while. First of all, let's go to the northwest region of the country. We saw some roads that are in a bad state in Njito, for example, in Ndu, Kamer, and now the population are struggling to rehabilitate the roads. And in Njito, for example, only the women were seen trying to fix the dilapidated bridge. What's your take on those images?
Well, the images are very touching, and it's to let you know that this is the suffering the regime has plunged Cameroonians into. This is the kind of suffering, and I'm sure they are happy, because when you go into a village where all young men have escaped for fear that if military comes in, they might be the victim, or for fear that probably exaggerated non-state armed actors, you get the point, could get them as prey for whatever reason or not. So when you look at it carefully, the main thing here we advocate is that they are so touching images, and that's not only Jito we're talking about. There are many other areas. If you go to Mwa, you go to Furawa, you go to Kombo Abedimo, you go to Kumukumu, you go to Bombele. These are areas that I say youths that used to find them there are no longer there. It tells you that people have been displaced, and if people have been displaced, why are they displaced? Because it's as a result of the crisis. And if the crisis has caused them to displace, and the women are not suffering, up to the extent that look at their ages, they are the ones building bridges, it tells you that the regime in Yaoundé does not mean good for this crisis to come to an end. We're talking about 4 years running now. National Assembly, Senate, they have never sat down as an agenda to put the Anglophone crisis and push it ahead. And yet we have MPs in those areas. The question we ask, who are the MPs representing? Who are the mayors supposed to work for? When they don't have what it takes to push this agenda when we say that desperate problems need desperate solutions. Therefore, we can now conclude that it is a calculated attempt to keep the people in this area constantly under suffering the way they are. If not, why are we talking about dialogue, genuine? I talk about genuine dialogue, not the masquerade one that took place in Yaoundé. Genuine dialogue, we are not finding it. Yet we find the government putting in place cosmetic solutions. We think that we are at the crossroad, and even the world must understand that the regime in place is not the least willing to bring this crisis to an end as we speak.
What makes you think that the President of the Republic, the Prime Minister, the Minister of Territorial Administration, and all the other government authorities do not want to put an end to this solution, whereas they have been taking a series of measures and actions, and the last being the first meeting of the Major National Dialogue Follow-up Committee in the Yaoundé, chaired by the Prime Minister, and the members of the committee have put in place a plan of activities in view of restoring normalcy and peace in those two regions and implementing recommendations of the Major National Dialogue. What do you make of all these?
Well, what I make of all that is simple. All the measures put in place are cosmetic measures. How do you assess a functional measure? It is when step 1 of measure 1 is put in place and you see the triggering effect that goes back to the community to tell you things have changed from where they were to a more better stage. When you engage stage 2, you see that it moves from where it was to another stage. Now, why do I say this regime in Yaoundé is not willing but willing to put in place cosmetic solutions to deceive Cameroonians and the international community that they are willing to bring it to an end? Now, when CRM has been advocating going as far as boycotting elections on the fact that the war in the northwest and the southwest must be looked into and brought to an end before any other further thing, before any other step, including even regional elections, what do we get in return? As I said, we get cosmetic solutions. If I tell you that under principles of conflict resolution, when you are holding a dialogue, the key actors must be present. You covered the dialogue in Yaoundé. Did you see key actors who are separatist fighters in it? Now, why do we say the government is not willing? Because the government has deliberately refused to accept dialoguing on an agenda that is the form of the state. With us, we have said clearly, for CRM, what we need is that the people are the ones to decide the kind of government. Whether it is decentralization, whether it is federation, or whatever the case might be, you give room for the people to decide under an atmosphere that is convivial for them. Now, when you say you don't want to get into, or you want to dialogue, excluding this, and the restorationists or the separatist fighters tells you no, we want this, including this, and at the end you see the war dragging with enormous damage being recorded every day, you yourself understand what happens in Bamenda of recent. Of course, with the gunshot moving, and now we get reports that for 3-4 days, people at food market have not been able to go back to their shops. Sometimes they come out and gunshots sends them back to where they're coming back to the house. So is that the kind of atmosphere we think that we can live? No.
You are seeing that the major persons concerned with the crisis were not the Major National Dialogue, but they were separatist fighters who dropped their guns. People who were presented as separatist fighters who dropped their guns, Kakawa Yannick, General Capture and Destroy, and all the rest were presented to us there.
Well, you must know that it's a fatal error. Why do I say a fatal error? In a conflict resolution, we talk about key actors, not actors. Now, who are the key actors? When you start asking yourself, the people who came, whether Kawajani or General A or General B or General Dai and Kamer and whatever, the question is, they who were present at the dialogue, what role have they played since the national dialogue getting almost to a year for the crisis to come to an end? Now, if we say these separatist fighters were key actors, for example, and they are unable to bring the crisis to an end, or unable to cause the shooting in Bamenda, or the shooting in Moyoka, or the shooting in Ekona and Munyenge to come to an end, it means there's a question mark. It means they don't wield the forces on the ground as they presumed to the state that they can do. Who are the key actors? We have the Nera 10 who are incarcerated in prison. We have Dr. Yabacho and the rest. So we said in conflict resolution, you must get all of this. And what are the principles? Why getting all of them to come to a table without any taboo subject? Because if the separatists say no, we must come with separation. The state says no, we will discuss nothing except, we'll discuss everything except the form of the state. So what are we saying? Where both parties are hanging on theirs, the main thing is that you can call all of them to come in with their respective ideas. Whether you have a separation, or you have a federation, or for decentralization. Now, what is the issue here? In conflict, you also realize that the arena was not also very convenient. Under conflict resolution, when you are holding a situation on the ground to resolve a problem, both of you must agree on a venue accepted by both parties. Your security, if you are coming as members and key actors, must be guaranteed. If you don't have that, it becomes difficult to say you have had a dialogue and you have come to a conclusion. Who are those who concluded in Yaoundé? CPDM militants and sympathizers of the CPDM were those who concluded in Yaoundé.
Are you saying that the national chairman of the Social Democratic Front, Christian Cardinal Tumi, Barrister Agbo Bala, are sympathizers of the CPDM?
When we say sympathizers, what do we mean? Under normal condition, they were present at the dialogue. And what is the question? The result the press had, even Barrister Agbo Bala, all the results the press had, have you seen them
Simon Munzo and all the rest?
So you have not seen them being implemented. And it means that some of them, means that most of the resolutions that have arrived at do not move in conformity. If you look at it clearly, Kazinatumi gave a 400 and something page document. Have you seen it being implemented on the ground? So we start asking the question that if we're talking about key actors in that particular dialogue, the first thing before we talk about whether it's Barrister Agbo Bala that has been also very on board the issue, and Kazinatumi, we're talking first about the key actors. Jonathan, who are the key actors? The state and the proponents of the separatist fighters, which means the leaders, those who are calling the shot.
Leaders, Sisikwa Yuktabe and all the
Yuktabe. Now you realize that during that period, there was even a message that went on talking about an arrest warrant for one of the key leaders of that fight. So you could imagine that. Imagine if they had taken the time to come. Did the state invite them? Did the state guarantee their security? Did the state sought to get from the whether the environment is very okay to them? So if all of these were not met, it means the national dialogue held in Yaoundé will never produce results as far as ending the Anglophone crisis is concerned.
You think that the government authorities are just deceiving the international community in all what they are doing, all what they are taking as measures and actions? And the question now is, why will a head of state with his authority, with his honor, the Prime Minister of the Republic, with his authority, with his honor, be deceiving the people?
Now, this is where the issue comes. There are two things coming into play. And one of them is probably that those who are around him give him the impression that the measures they are putting in place are the best measures. I repeat, those who are around him are giving the impression that the cosmetic measures they are putting in place will yield fruits. But I'd say, and our party says, and any bona fide English-speaking Cameroonians understands that the measures are all cosmetic. I repeat, all cosmetic. Now, if you look at it, I said, and I've said here several times, when you look at the examples in comparative politics in other parts of the world, in the case of South Sudan, they did not start their conflicts, they did not start dialogue. But in South Sudan, they did not start their discussions in Juba. The first discussions they agreed upon, because the rebel leader who was the vice president was not very sure of when the president in South Sudan said it is time for them to go to the tables. And so, both of them agreed. And the first meeting was in DRC. When they met and realized that the issue was becoming serious and the president in South Sudan was serious, that's when they had several meetings out and then took now this fourth and the fifth meeting back to Juba when they were very sure. Now, if you look at it critically, the same scenario moves in other places in the world. When you talk about the issue of Colombia, in Colombia with the FARC rebels, they had several meetings with the intervention of the international community out of Colombia before finally coming in after 50 years civil war between the FARC rebels and the Colombian government. So when you talk about conflict resolution, the moment there is a breach of trust between one or two of the parties, there is a need for a neutral ground first to be sorted, and third, a third party to be included in a case where both of them doubt each other.
No,
have these measures been put in place? No.
No, regional elections are coming up. The President of the Republic has signed a decree setting the pace for the election, but the SDF thinks that organizing the election in the present context will be another expression of the marginalization of English-speaking Cameroonians, and is going to contribute to aggravate the situation on the ground. What do you think about that?
Well, you understand, I would not be too very okay to talk about SDF, because the SDF officials should be able to
the idea now, of
on the idea of what SDF has put in place. I will tell you the idea is a good one, but the question mark is, with the constant Bafia dance engaged by the party, are we sure at the nick of time the same party will not come back in the nick of time on the eve of the regional election to say no, we are going in for? On the other hand, I've been able to analyze their move. What did I get from it? In the first place, when we were advocating that they should be able to back up from the municipal and legislative, because we saw these things coming afar, and they said no, they will not go. And I attended most of the press conferences, and at the nick of time, they said they are going. Now what happens? They have lost several councils. One of the reasons will surely be that they have been able to understand that with the councillors that they don't have on the ground, it means that the elections will obviously not favor them. Those are one of the reasons I am advocating as a probability.
Is it
but on the other hand, SDF had been on the center advocating that the crisis should come to an end. But our problem is at the level of consistency. If SDF, just like any other bona fide party opposing the ruling party, had taken a step as CRM took, we are sure that the government would have known that we mean business, as we see other political parties now coming to agree that the issue of the regional election that has been put in place by the CRM as a no-go election, they are beginning to see it, that it's something we need to consider if we want peace and equity to reign within the Cameroonian context.
The national chairman of the Social Democratic Front, Nick John Funde, says that to answer to this question, I put to him in one of the editions of the Inside, and he said when a player puts or gets the ball on his feet, he does not run directly to the opposite camp and then scores the goal. He goes in front, comes behind, and then tries to monitor the game in order to be able to move forward.
You know, I don't want to believe on that analysis, because those are justifications of failure. As I said, in politics, you need to be consistent. Your yes should be your yes, and your no should be your no.
Is it proper to organize elections in this context?
No. Under normal condition, the question should have been, will it be credible to run an election? Because if you talk about is it proper or not, the regime can run its election whether credible or not, because they have been used to that system. Now, when you see them not wanting to work on electoral reforms, you see them not wanting to bring the crisis to the north and the southwest to an end, because they understand these things will work to their favor. And of course, you understand, in my area, in Momo Division, I spoke with, for example, our late Vice Ambandam, and we said these issues will not favor. If you look at what transpired in Batibo, most of the things work in favor, because even the military as the law states during elections at that particular time, municipal